Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Simplified Computer Science Concepts by Professor Rutuja. Today we will be learning one of the synchronization mechanism, that is lock variables in operating systems. Now let us look into it. Now these log variables is nothing but it is a mechanism of busy waiting synchronization mechanism. In the earlier lecture we have seen about the synchronization mechanisms. There are two broad categories of synchronization mechanisms. One was busy waiting, other one was without busy waiting. Out of which these lock variables fall under the category of busy waiting mechanism. So this lock variable is a software mechanism. Why software mechanism? Because the lock that we are going to use is nothing but a variable which is used in a programming language. So as I told you, it is based on busy waiting mechanism. And it is implemented in user mode. So there are two modes. One is user mode, other one is kernel mode. Kernel mode is the mode where all the operating system's main functions are performed. And as this particular is a software mechanism which will be implemented with the help of programming languages, and obviously programming languages will be implemented in the user mode. So that is why it is called, it is said that it is implemented in user mode. Then whenever two or more than two processes are trying to access the critical section, at that time this particular lock variables can be used. Now let us try and understand the concept. So we have entry section, exit section and a critical section. Let us understand. First there is an entry section. Before entering into the critical section, we have to first go into entry section. This is a lock variable, and now let's say a process wants to enter into a critical section. So first it will check what is the value of lock. Lock can have either 0 or 1. If it has 0, which means that it is free. That what it means? It is nothing but critical section. That means the critical section free and the process 1 can easily enter and use the critical section. So here the lock is 0, which means the critical section is free. Now the process 1 can enter into the critical section. Right? So see, the process 1 is now into the critical section. Now once process 1 is into the critical section, immediately it turns the values of lock to 1, which means that the critical section is now busy, so that some other process now wants to access the critical section will get a message that no, the critical section is busy. Now comes the exit section. After successfully completion of process 1 execution of the critical section, it has to move out of the critical section and enter the non-critical section. So for that, it will just turn the value of the lock variable to 0. Now again, when the value of the lock is 0, which means now the process P2 which wants to enter the critical section will check for the value of lock. It is 0, that means it can enter into the critical section. This is how it works. Now let us look at this one more example, wherein this is a piece of code. We have 3 lines of execution, that is while lock is not equal to 0, lock is equal to 1, and in the critical section we have one more line that we will see later. Now let us first understand that there are two processes which are trying to execute this particular code. Now P1 wants to enter into the critical section. It goes to the first line, that is nothing but the entry section. The first line is what? While lock is not equal to 0. What is the initial value of lock? It is 0. So what is the current value of lock? It is 0. So we will check. While 0 is not equal to 0, is the condition true? The condition is false. So when the condition is false, it will go and execute the next line of instruction. What is the next line of instruction? It is lock is equal to 1. That means now the value of lock is 1. See, which means that P1 has successfully entered into the critical section because initially the value of lock was 0. Right? Now comes P2. P2 wants to enter into the critical section. However, P1 is already there into the critical section. Now P2 will again go and check for the first statement. The first statement is what? While lock is not equal to 0, semicolon. Now here it is very not obvious that after while loop we will have semicolon. But then we have given semicolon. Why so? Because when P1 is entered into the critical section, P2, if executes the first instruction, it will repeat this statement till the condition is true. It will keep on waiting till the P1 comes outside of that critical section. Now, P1 enters, successfully completes the critical section and enters into the critical section and converts the lock to 0. So here the value of 1 will be again turned to 0. Now P2, which is continuously trying to enter with this statement, it now finds that the lock is again turned to 0, which means that P2 can now enter into the critical section. Now the value of this lock variable will change from 0 to 1. So see here, 0 to 1, it has been changed. However, there is one limitation. So if you might have seen over here, what is the main purpose or the main thing that is there, that is mutual exclusion must be satisfied. So here both the mutual exclusion, that means one process at one time is entering into the critical section. So here it is satisfying that. However, there is one limitation of this particular lock variable system. What is that? Let us try and understand. So this is a piece of code that we are referring to. This is line number 1, 2 and 3. There are 3 lines, right? And there is a critical section and there are 2 processes that are there. Initially, the lock variable is having a value as 0. Now P1 is starting its execution of this particular program. Okay, it executes this line number 1. Okay, it checks while lock is not equal to 0. What is the value of lock? 0. 0 is not equal to 0. The condition is false. Whenever the condition is false, it will go and jump to the next line. That means the value of lock will be now equal to 1. However, before storing that lock equal to 1, P1 preempts itself. Preempts means it stops its execution and switches to the next process. So from P1 we have preempted to P2. So what is the value of lock? It is 0 only, because we before converting the value to 1, it got preempted. So now P2, which wants to enter into the critical section, understands that the lock value is 0, which means that it can go and execute the first instruction. So it now goes and checks what is the value of lock. Lock value is 0. It can enter into the critical section. It enters into the critical section, turns the value of lock is equal to 1 and then preempts. Okay, now value of lock is 1. So now P2 is entered into the critical section. Again after here, P2 preempts and comes back to P1. P1 starts resuming its operation from wherever it has stopped earlier. So earlier it has the value of lock is equal to 0, but P2 has made it to 1. But P1 does not understand or does not know that P2 has performed this lock is equal to 1. P1 starts resuming its execution from line 1. Now P2 has made the value of lock is equal to 1. P1 did not know this. So what happens? P1 will start executing from line 2. So line 2 is lock is equal to 1. So now the value of lock is also is equal to 1. And P1 will also enter into the critical section. Now what happens over here? Mutual exclusion is not satisfied, because we know or we say that no 2 processes can enter into the critical section at the same time. Only one process at one time. But here when we are trying to do so, both the processes are entered into the critical section. So primary objective is what? Mutual exclusion. But that is not satisfied. And the secondary objective is what? Progress. So progress is achieved. Why progress is achieved? Because no process is blocking each other's execution. But then the primary objective is not satisfied. So we say that this particular solution of lock variables using lock variables is not a foolproof one. That is why we will go and see for the next solutions. I hope you have understood this concept. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great day ahead. And please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.